Hi everyone, welcome to Open Day. Thank you so much for being here. Hope you've had a good morning here so far. That's good, lots of nodding, I'm glad. My name's Suzanne, I'm part of the Future Students team here at Southern Cross University, and thank you for joining us on the lands of the Yugambeh language people. A big part of their culture is actually sharing and passing down knowledge through storytelling, which is exactly what we're here to do, so it's very fitting we're doing that here in this room on this land, so thank you so much for being here. This is a session about counselling and social work and community welfare, three programs that we offer here at Southern Cross University, and we're joined by a pretty great panel. So I have with me here Dr. Thomas Sim. So Thomas has over 25 years experience as an educator and counsellor. Yeah, and nobody likes it when the years go in, do they? His focus as an educator is to apply a student-centred approach to teaching by creating an inclusive and safe classroom or online environment. Thomas emphasises the importance of experiential learning and hands-on experiences by incorporating practical case studies and collaborative activities into the curriculum so you can bridge the gap between theory and application. As a counsellor, you are deeply rooted in the principles of person-centred therapy, embracing the core tenets of empathy, unconditional positive regard, and authenticity. Thomas draws from acceptance and commitment therapy, cognitive behavioural therapy, mindfulness, solution-focused therapy, and tailoring each session to best serve individual client needs. So it sounds like we all need more people in the world like you, Thomas. We're also joined by Dr. Darren Stonehouse. Darren is a social worker with extensive practice experience in homelessness, housing, and youth work. You teach in social work and community welfare degrees, and your research interests centre on contemporary housing and homelessness issues in Australia, trends in social policy and human services provision, and lived experiences of marginalised populations. Thomas is passionate about collaborating with industry partners and communities to design and conduct research projects that further social justice. I feel like a total underachiever with you guys here. It's pretty amazing. And we have Danielle, who's a current student here at Southern Cross University. Some of you may have already met Danielle throughout the day. You are a current student in the Bachelor of Social Work, and you have a passion for social justice, and you're an advocate for accessible mental health services in rural areas. So thank you so much for being here today, really appreciate it. While we were getting together to talk about this panel today, it was really sort of pointed out about how different counselling, social work and community welfare are to each other. So we're talking about all of them today, but certainly not in an interchangeable or sort of familiar way across all three. So they are quite different. And please know that it is an interactive session where we'll call for questions sort of towards the end as well. So please let us know if you need clarification on anything or you have any specific questions. And we are all here for the rest of the day, so you can certainly find us after the session for questions as well. So we might start with you, please, Thomas. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming a counsellor?
Oh, all right. I think in a very personal way, I started being a counsellor because I was a good listener and everybody started telling me their problems and I had zero solutions. And then I realized that just listening actually helped. I didn't have to say anything and everybody said I was a great listener and a great talker and a great help, but I realized that I didn't actually say anything. So then I started, of course, being more academically inclined in order to pick up more skills on counseling, and I realized it's a lot more than that. Not just listening, what you're able to do with what you've heard, how you're able to show the empathic togetherness, the presence with your person that you are talking to, and how really to connect with them and share a bit of yourself in that journey for them to reach whatever solution that they need. So it all started with really just being there for my friends, listening to them, and always being the one that they come to for help. Even though I never really thought that I was giving them much help, but somehow seemed to work. Then I went to uni and did counseling. So here I am.
expecting a very long line of people after this just to have a chat with you. Yeah, that's right. And what about you, Darren? How did you become a social worker?
A bit of a wiggly journey, but I had a bit of a hard time in the sort of last year or two of high school, and I did get into uni, but I was doing something that I wasn't really that passionate about, and so I left after a year, and I was sort of travelling a bit and working a bit. And then when I sort of got to around 21, and I was thinking maybe it's time to think about going back to uni. And by this stage, I'd gotten really interested in youth work. So partly from my own experiences, and I'd been doing some volunteer work at sort of a youth centre in Central Coast in New South Wales. And I didn't really know what social work was. And back then there used to be a thing called I think it was called a UAC guide, so an actual, book you'd look up
They
all the
still
unis
exist.
in and courses.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. They're probably online now, I'm sure. And I was looking at descriptions, and, I found this description of social work, and it talked about, working with people who'd experienced disadvantage, or, looking at social justice and human rights and helping people. And I thought that was what I wanted to do. So I went and studied social work, and now I'm here.
You're here with us on a Sunday. And what about you, Danielle? Do you tell us a bit about your decision to study social work?
Yeah, so I started as a mature age student, so I was 25, turning 26 when I came and started here. I originally wanted to be a beauty therapist. I did that. I then worked in sales and marketing for a while, and then kind of went through I don't know what you call it, quarter life crisis, where I was quite involved with psychiatrists, psychologists and social workers. So I worked quite closely with those three professions. And as I started to become healthier, I was looking at, the career I was in, it wasn't fulfilling. And I was kind of at a point where I'm like, this community of mental health professionals and even the other people who I guess were patients, they had taught me so much and had gotten me to where I was. And so I spoke to the social worker and I spoke to my psychiatrist and my psychologist, and they all kind of said, we think you'd be a great social worker. And so I looked into it more, and I realised that I have always been very vocal and very outspoken about things like social justice, advocacy, people's rights, and I wanted to give back to the community that helped me so much. And so for me, social work is a profession that it can take me pretty much anywhere, but it means that at the end of the day, I'm giving back, I'm making a difference in the world, even if it's just to one person in one small way. Then for me, that kind of makes everything I've gone through worth it.
Thank you. Thank you all for sharing your personal stories with everybody wanting to learn more. It's greatly appreciated. Just to come back to counselling for a second, Thomas, how many people here are interested in counselling in particular? Yeah, it's a few of you. Yeah, what would you tell people considering counselling? What you've touched on a little bit, but what qualities make a good counsellor, and what could they expect from their studies here?
Okay. I think it's very important. I mean, in my little write-up of who I am, I put in the person-centered therapy core values. And the three core values are really empathy, unconditional positive regard, and being authenticity. Now, what you see is what you get. I'm not going to talk to you in this way and then talk to a client in another way. So I have to be authentic, The next one is empathy, being able to understand what the other person is going through, being able to understand when they are sharing their experiences. And the last one is unconditional positive regard. I honestly don't care who you are, what you've done, whatever, fill in the blank. You are here to help. You are here for help. I'm here to help, full stop. So that's it. So if you have these three qualities, join us. And you'll make a difference.
Thank you. And for you, Darren, do you want to talk us a bit through the social work and community welfare and perhaps the differences or what to expect from each of those degrees?
It's a really tricky question. There's the easiest answer to it is the Bachelor of Community Welfare is a 3-year degree. It's an accredited degree from the Australian Community Workers Association. It's primarily designed, I guess, as a faster pathway into the profession of community services and into different sort of welfare, community, human services fields. So particularly geared around sort of casework, counselling, those sorts of things. And then the Bachelor of Social Work is 4 years. I'm talking full-time equivalents here. And it's accredited by the Australian Association of Social Work. Probably the easiest way, one of the easiest ways to describe the difference is social work probably opens up a bit more of a broader range of career options. It's a course that's not only recognised throughout Australia but also internationally, and I guess it has a very direct sort of pathway into the profession of social work, and so for people who are wanting to kind of pursue that pathway. The good thing about the two courses though is they have a shared first year, so they're the same in first year, and students can move between the two. So sometimes we have students who start in social work and decide to go to welfare, community welfare, and vice versa. So we have that kind of benefit. We also share some units with the counselling course as well. So for me, as a social worker, I guess, you know, one of the great things about it is the breadth of things that you can do, you know, the sorts of range of careers that you can have, different client groups. We work from people from, we say, the cradle to the grave, you know, from newborns, infants, you know, children, young people, families, all the way up to sort of end of life. And lots of different ways of working as well. So not to steal Thomas's thunder, but, you know, we do counselling, we do casework, we do group work, we do project work, we do research, we do policy. So it's a really broad sort of type of range of things that our students learn to do, and both in community welfare and social work, you know, we have a range of subjects or units that obviously teach the knowledge and the skills for students to be able to go on and do those sorts of things. And also a lot of work-based placement, what we call placements, so a lot of practical work experience that our students get while they're studying before they graduate.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you. It's really clear. And is there quite a lot of practical work in the counselling degree as well?
Yeah, I think in majority of degrees these days, if you're not ready for the workforce, well, I honestly don't think the degree is worth much. You know, because if you're not going out there and helping people, let's say if you're doing a Bachelor of Counselling, you don't know how to speak to a client, you don't know how to help a client, then you shouldn't graduate. So there's a lot of practical hours within the course itself, as well as what we call work integrated learning. So we have subjects where you spend 100 hours, 200 hours in organization, counseling organization, delivering services, under supervision, of course.
Yeah, thank you. Danielle, do you want to tell us a bit about your specific experience as a social work student? And I know you had a great rural placement. Do you want to tell us a bit about your experience as a student here?
Yeah, so who's interested in social work / community welfare? Okay, cool. Who's not sure? Yeah, cool.
Who's here for engineering?
So social work has quite a lot of hours for placement. It's 1,000. It's broken up into 2 500-hour blocks. The AASW, Australian Association of Social Workers, is currently looking into changing that. But yeah, so I did my first 500-hour block at the beginning of last year. I opted to do it rurally because I felt like in the metro area, so in cities, on the coast where most of Australia's population lives, there's a lot of services, which means that I'm only really going to be on the side. I'm not really going to have that hands-on experience, and I just had the ability at the time. So I opted to go rural. I went to a little town called St. George. It's about 7 hours west of Brisbane. It has a population of about 2,000 people, and I was there for 18 weeks. within that experience, I did what they call a dual placement. So normally for one block, you would only be with one organisation. I was able to do it with two. So I spent my first 13 weeks with a community service organisation working with children and families who had been involved with child safety, child protection. So doing cold calls, working with families to figure out what kind of services we can provide to them to help their situation. The second placement, the second organisation I was with was a community organisation where people with chronic health illnesses came in, worked with a range of different interprofessional disciplines. So there was exercise physiologists, dietitians, etc., all working together for people with chronic health issues. And within that 18 weeks, I got to have a hands-on experience. So with the first organisation, I had a caseload where I was in charge. I was the lead talking with these families. And I will admit there was a lot more losses than there were wins. But those couple of wins that they were the ones that just absolutely confirmed for me that social work is the career path for me. Just to see the difference that I made with those couple of people, it was just affirming and honestly life-changing for me. You know, when you're going to university, you're putting a lot of commitment into the degree. So to be in my third year and go, absolutely, that one small win, helping that dad have access to his child, has just made it worth it. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Danielle. We'd like to offer you the opportunity to ask the panel some questions. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, hello.
What's the difference between the counselor degree and psychology degree? So what is really the opportunity you have to work with different people?
That's a very interesting question. I'm not a lecturer with psychology, but I do happen to have a PhD in psychology as well as a master's in counseling. So I can share a little bit. I think the main difference is that in psychology, the approach that they have is pretty much assessment and help, and it's very structured. It's very much also trying to be much more scientific in their approach, whereas the counseling degree is much more humanistic in their approach, more holistic. We look at the client from all angles. What's your family support like? What's your social life like? What's your family systems like? What's your family like, etc., etc. There's a lot of diagnosis in psychology because they are, after they are qualified, they are qualified to diagnose. Counselor is not qualified and honestly doesn't want to diagnose. We don't really like to label people with anything. We just help whatever the situation is without labeling. So I guess the major difference is that.
It's a great answer because a lot of people ask, Danielle and I sort of go out and talk about degrees a lot to different people, and we do get that question a lot. Yeah. Hi.
Can you tell me whether the counselling and social work degrees are Commonwealth Government fee-assisted degrees?
Yeah.
Yes, so for domestic students, they have what's called a Commonwealth supported place. So the unit costs are subsidised by the government. And you can also get the HEX Help loan as well through the government to help with your studies.
So it's cheaper than, say, some other things like law, or because there's a need for this type of thing? Is that the reason?
Yeah, so if you Google student contribution amount SCU, it'll be the first link that comes up. It'll give you a kind of really brief breakdown of the different levels of fees and a rough estimate of unit costs.
Did you want to add something, Dan?
No, I was just going to say, because both counselling and social work and community welfare, all three are areas of high need in terms of employment in the communities, so that's reflected in, I guess, government policy in terms of what they cost in comparison to, some other degrees where, that direct sort of line to employment is not as strong. So, yeah.
Yes, hi.
I understand that paid placement is going to become a thing in the next financial year. The social work is all health degrees. Is that covered under the paid placement?
Yeah, so both community welfare and social work. Yeah, so I mean we don't know the details of that exactly how much and how it's going to work, but yes, we do know that both students doing placements in those degrees will be covered by that, which is great. Yeah.
Just to add on to that, very excited for that to come in because I still have my final placement block to do. I am. You are supposed to do it in the first half of your fourth year and your final year, but I've moved it back to the end of next year because that's when that comes in.
Yes, hi.
Yeah, I guess probably one of the main areas in terms of private work, and it's kind of grown considerably in the last few years, is in mental health subsidised sort of counselling and therapeutic approaches. So, social workers who work in private practice as counsellors and who have a mental health accreditation through the ASAW, and so their clients get the Medicare rebate for sessions with them. So that's probably one of the main areas. One of the other areas is in disability services as well. So there's quite a few social workers who are set up, I guess, providing different types of services in the NDIS, but they work as, private contractors. Yeah.
Anybody else? Yes.
Sorry, I just want to ask about the diploma pathway in social work that spoken about earlier. So what is that diploma in community?
Now, someone will tell me if I get this wrong. It's Diploma of Health with a Community Services specialisation. Yeah, so that's an option for students, and that can be a pathway into either social work or community welfare. And students who do that get credit for first year units, and they're shared units in both social work and community welfare. So effectively, students who come through that pathway at the end of it kind of have a bit of a choice then as to which direction they want to go in terms of moving on to the bachelor course. Yep.
It's a lot of good questions from this group, isn't there? Anybody else? Is there anything you'd like to add today?
I guess I just wanted to add, because I kind of only really spoke about my placement when I was talking about being a student. As was mentioned for counselling, you do have your placement blocks, but the units themselves are very hands-on. Menka here is in the front row. She was one of my lecturers for a unit about family violence and family and domestic abuse. And there was a lot of role playing in that class, and that's been kind of the theme throughout a lot of my units. It's very hands-on. So whilst there is that placement element where you are going out into the community under supervision, working with people in real life, there is also that element of, learning in the classroom, putting that theory into practice before you are going out working with real people. So it is quite a hands-on degree. A lot of theory, but, the lecturers and unit assessors here do whatever they can to make it really fun. So you get a lot of that before going out.
And a lot of support in general? Yeah.
For just one thing. Probably one of the things I'd like to highlight is, and I found this personally in social work, is it's an opportunity to pursue a particular passion that you have. So it's because it can be so broad. You can come into a course with an existing interest and passion in mental health or domestic and family violence or youth work or children or disability or working with refugees or whatever it might be, and you can pursue that in social work. But there's also lots of opportunity to learn about different areas of practice that you might not have considered, and we often have students coming in who might have a particular idea about what they want to do, and then because of the subject they do or a placement, start to change their kind of direction as well. And once you're qualified, there's lots of flexibility in terms of moving between different, what we call fields or areas of practice. So you're not locked into one, you can specialise or you can move across and between different ones. So there's a lot of variety, which I think you don't get in a lot of other sort of health careers. Yep.
Anything you'd like to add about counselling, Thomas?
Okay. I feel pressurized now, so I'm going to add my bit. I think basically for counseling, one of the main benefits for me, and I guess it's a very selfish benefit, is that I know I've helped people. So I wake up every day happy to help people, and I have helped people. So if you go through life and then you work for, I don't know, some big multinational corporation, you get the sense that you're trapped in a rat race and not really helping people, and you don't necessarily have a certain system or a certain value system that seems to inspire you to do things. But if you're a counselor, you know that you've touched people and you know that you have affected people's life, as well as, of course, social work and welfare, community services. All right, so pick one of the three is fine, but counseling is better.
We're all assessing our life choices now, Thomas. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. I hope you've really enjoy being on campus today. We will all be around for any questions that you may have, so please feel free. And I keep reminding people today is not a one-time gig either. The campus is always here. You're always welcome to come and see us. As part of the Future Students team, we're always happy to show you around, keep answering your questions. We are real people at the end of the phone and the emails, and we're here to help. So please get the most out of today, but we're still here. Is there any grade 12 students here in the session? Yep. So we have our early offer program. If you wanted to apply, you may have applied already. If you want to find out any more about that, or direct applications across the board for everybody else, come and ask us as many questions as you like. And thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to our amazing panel.